Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, you are very welcome. This is Reading the Past and I'm Dr. Cat. In the video I uploaded last week, we took a look at the origins of Bedlam. As part of that discussion, I highlighted the last image in the series we're exploring today, and I mentioned that I was going to act on the requests I'd seen in the comments of various videos to make another video on William Hogarth's A Rake's Progress. This video on A Rake's Progress is going to be added to a growing Hogarth playlist that I have made that I will be leaving linked. That playlist includes videos on Gin Lane and Beer Street, and also on the companion series to the one we're looking at today, A Harlot's Progress. But now, without further ado, let's take a look at the cautionary tale of Tom Rakewell, as William Hogarth depicts it, through his 8 paintings and engraved prints. In my first video on Hogarth's work, which I will leave linked, I began by exploring the artist's biography, so if you haven't seen that one and you'd like the additional context, please do go to that video to check that out. Briefly though, Hogarth's biographer David Bindman describes the artist's childhood as being beset by, quote, early misfortunes, which he feels may have fueled his, quote, determination to rise in the world. When Hogarth was in his mid-30s, having already shaped a reputation as a portrait artist and creator of satirical paintings, he set to work on the first of his modern moral subjects. The first project in this series being A Harlot's Progress, which was originally produced as a set of 6 oil paintings that were completed in 1731, with engravings of these images then being produced in 1732. By the next year, 1733, Hogarth was already advertising the second of his modern moral subject series, namely A Rake's Progress. 8 paintings and engravings of this series were created by around 1735. Both of the Progress painting series were sold to William Beckford. In the case of A Harlot's Progress, that was on display at Beckford's Elizabethan mansion of Fonthill Abbey when it went up in flames in 1755. The mansion and all of its contents, including the full series of paintings of A Harlot's Progress, were lost, leaving us dependent on the engravings of that series alone. In the case of A Rake's Progress, though, we do have both the paintings and the engravings, so I do assume that that part of the Beckford collection must have been being housed elsewhere when the fire started, although I must confess I am not sure where it was being held. For our discussion of A Rake's Progress, I will be showing both versions of each image on screen, but for the most part I am going to focus on the engravings for this discussion, as I do find that they are clearer in terms of the details, and so I think it's easier to see what I'm talking about by looking at them. Right then, let's jump in. We meet our protagonist, Tom Rakewell, as the heir of a recently deceased, very successful moneylender. This baby-faced individual is now freed of his father's authority and, shall we say, financial carefulness, and he seems keen to live in a manner opposite to the example that was set for him by his father. Tom is being measured for a new suit. Around him, an inventory of his father's possession, and thus his inheritance, is being taken. A cursory glance at this room might have a viewer believing, on account of the cracked ceiling and damaged walls, that the elder Rakewell was of insubstantial means. A closer look, though, will show that the opposite is in fact the case. In the top right-hand corner, a locked cupboard has been opened to reveal that a roasting jack or spit had been locked away. Evidence that the elder Rakewell may have been keen to avoid the expense of entertaining. A man is up a ladder, attempting to fix the cornice, but while doing so, we see a stash of coins beginning to tumble down. In the portrait over the fireplace, Rakewell Sr. is depicted counting money. An elderly maid sets about filling the fireplace, but not with logs. Instead, she seems to be using spindly shavings, presumably to cut costs. The furred hat on the mantelpiece, which is the one being worn in the portrait, and the coat hanging behind the door are instead a free defence against the cold. In this room, items are hoarded. Nothing appears to have been thrown away. There is both a crutch and a cane resting by the fireplace. In the large cupboard there are old wigs, broken pots and jugs, damaged rapiers and worn-down boots. An attempt has even been made to resole one shoe with the leather from the cover of a Bible. Is this a sign, when it comes to the elder Rakewell, that more care has been put into saving money when shoeing the soles of his feet, instead of considering the health of his immortal soul? A malnourished cat, who perhaps has been denied a proper diet by their miserly owner, is shown pawing at a strongbox, where we can see expensive plate has been hoarded. Beside that box, strewn all across the floor, we see documents detailing the elder Rakewell's financial holdings: indentures, leases, bonds and mortgages. A small notebook lays open on the floor. The page we can see reads as follows: Memorandums, 1720. May 3rd, my son Tom came from Oxford. 4th, dined at the French Ordinary. 5th of June, put off my bad shilling. It has been suggested that these notes refer variously to Tom being expelled from Oxford, of which his father makes seemingly no further note nor offers any explanation, preferring instead to detail his choice to dine frugally at the French Ordinary, and then to celebrate being able to get rid of a bad, likely a clipped or a forged, coin. The father's priorities are thus shown to have been disordered. The behaviours we are about to witness in his son, therefore, can arguably be in part put down to this poor example. Seated at the table, we see a man who, by his dress, is identifiable as a lawyer. He is there to inventory this estate. But while no one is looking, it does seem that he is pilfering from that purse of coins that he is supposed to be counting. At the door, we have Tom's lover. Her name is Sarah Young, and she is weeping. She has brought his letters, no doubt promising her an honourable future. Certainly, she is holding a ring between her thumb and index finger, which perhaps points to Tom having promised to marry her. Behind her, her furious mother points to her daughter's belly. Sarah is pregnant. Tom appears to be attempting to pay them off. Tom is failing to heed the warning in the achievement of arms above the door, which shows 3 closed vices above the motto, beware. While his father also ignored this warning by giving way to avarice, the son is already acting out in lust. As we are going to see throughout the course of these images, Tom would likely have fared far better if he had indeed been wary. The second scene is named the levee, a reference to the tradition of assisting a leader or monarch at their waking, which offered an opportunity to be in that ruler's presence and potentially to ask them for favours. As time moved on, this tradition would expand to wealthy individuals who might be visited by those looking to sell them some goods or services. It seems to me that Hogarth is mocking the pretension of this act in this case. Tom is surrounded, clothed in the fine continental fashions that we saw him being measured for in the first image. He holds a letter of recommendation, which informs him that, according to one W. Stab, the captain is a man of honour. Although Tom is already well surrounded by supplicants, about whom more in a moment, we can see that his outer room is also filled with people, all with something to sell him. A musician sits before the harpsichord with a new operatic score open in front of him. In the painting, this score is attributed to F.H., which might be a reference to George Frederick Handel. It may be that Handel is who we are supposed to assume is at the harpsichord in this image. A scroll of paper, with Tom Rakewell's name inscribed at the very bottom, in an entry that references a gold snuff box, indicates that he is one of many to be making an expensive gift to the famous and fashionable Italian castrato Farinelli. The donation list for this emasculated man unfurls at the feet of a fashionably dressed dancing master. He holds a small violin as he demonstrates his teaching. Some of Hogarth's viewers may have understood this individual to be a feminising and foreign influence on the community at large. At the dancing master's shoulder is a fencing master. It has been suggested that he may be a reference to the French fencing master Dubois, who had been killed in a duel in 1733. Behind these figures, obscured and ignored by Rakewell, are two Englishmen. There is the prizefighter James Figg, who is commonly regarded as being the father of boxing. He is shown holding some of the tools of his trade, namely quarterstaffs. He observes this fencing master with a look of clear and apparent disdain. Beside him is a landscape gardener who has been identified as Charles Bridgman. We are being shown that foreign fashions are pushing English crafts and traditions out of the way in the Rakewell house. Tom's attention is turned to the rather threatening figure that is clutching the handle of his rapier to his side. He is presumably that individual who is being recommended in the letter that Tom holds. He is commonly described as an assassin, and it has been suggested that he is being kept around in case Tom's lascivious ways get him into trouble with some lady's father, brother, or indeed husband. A horn player stands at the edge of this image, likely as evidence of Tom's interest in equestrian pursuits, such as hunting. Similarly, a jockey kneels down before him, showing off a trophy. This jockey has won a race on one of Tom Rakewell's horses, a horse named Silly Tom. Our very own Silly Tom, Tom Rakewell, is spending money on racehorses and likely on gambling too. There are paintings of two gamecocks on the wall. These are likely Tom's own fighting birds that he probably also gambles on. Like the figure of Paris in the painting behind him, Tom's choices are dangerous, and they threaten to bring ruin. And so we enter the next scene, called the orgy. Tom sits, legs akimbo, stocking rolling down, hat askew, shirt undone, and his sword euphemistically unsheathed. He is in a brothel, being fondled by one of the women who earn their living there. The black patches on her face are likely concealing the telltale signs of a sexually transmitted infection, namely syphilis. She has stolen his pocket watch and is handing that off to an accomplice behind his back. His time is being literally and figuratively stolen. A collection of broken fragments rests at Tom's feet, including a watchman's staff and a lantern. Perhaps this is a sign or a warning that Tom is going down an unlit or dark path. It also points to Tom's bad behaviour. It seems that he has accosted, perhaps assaulted the night watchman, maybe locked him up. Certainly, he has taken the tools of the watchman's trade and made off with them. At the table, we see people drinking to excess. One woman is shown to be spitting her drink, possibly gin, into the face of another woman, who is holding up a blade menacingly. The couple beside them seem unconcerned by these events, as they are so caught up in their canoodling. The woman who is shown to be adjusting her clothing while seated was known as a posture woman. The closest modern equivalent to this role is an exotic dancer. She is making ready to assume various postures on this highly polished plate that is being brought in. The reflective surface of this plate is intended to offer a titillating view of this lady from beneath her. Around the edge of this plate, we see the name of the establishment in which these events are taking place: the Rose Tavern, Drury Lane. Perhaps the harpist and horn player at the rear of the image will accompany the posture woman in her performance. For now, though, they may be playing along and accompanying the ballad singer. The paper she holds is labelled Black Joke. This was a popular and bawdy song of the time that alluded to female genitalia. Pictures of Roman emperors adorn the walls. They are joined by a broken mirror and a portrait of the cook, Pontac. Greed, thus, is arguably being revered here. Among the emperors is Nero, who is famously credited for fiddling while Rome burned. And in a similar vein, there is a woman we can see who has taken a lit candle to a map of the world. Like all the other libertines in this room, she will willingly set the world on fire, even if that means she destroys it, her friends, and even herself in the process. We next meet our finely dressed Rake as he is being accosted and pulled from a sedan chair. An officer is arresting him for unpaid debts. Sarah Young, Tom's spurned lover from the first scene, has, in spite of everything, apparently remained loyal to him. She allows her small box of possessions to fall as she attempts to prevent this arrest. The arresting officer's assistant, club in the air, is distracted in his duties and is instead casting a lascivious glance towards Sarah. In the front of this scene, a group of boys are gambling, dicing and card playing. One is smoking a pipe, while another picks Tom's pocket of a fine handkerchief. Their questionable or immoral behaviour is arguably nothing more than a symptom of there being no examples of good behaviour for them to emulate. These boys sit by a post marked blacks, while in the background we see the aristocratic gentlemen's club, whites. This den of gambling and excess is here being shown struck by lightning, as if in divine judgment. Overhead, the lamplighter, distracted by the commotion, is seemingly about to spill his lamp oil directly onto Tom's head. An equestrian shop behind him is a reminder of one of the ways that this rake has wasted his inheritance, on the horses he owned and on those that he bet on. This scene is taking place before the royal court of St James's Palace, which can be seen in the background. It is full of hustle and bustle, and Tom may have been hoping to cross into the boundary of this place in order to evade the authority of those officers that have come to arrest him here. This may also explain how neat his attire looks. Tom was planning to go to court. Off to the side, we see a smartly dressed man with a fine muff keeping his hands warm. He is probably one of Tom's creditors, and indeed it may have been he that brought these officers to arrest him. To alleviate his dire financial straits, Tom takes himself off to the church of St Marylebone to enter into the kind of hasty and ill-advised marriage that location, that church, had become famous for. Tom's bride seems to be significantly older than him and is shown to be missing an eye. She is rich and is presumably hopeful of enjoying the sexual rewards of having a much younger husband. This bride is being tended to by her young maid, whom Tom appears to be leering at in the very moment he is marrying her mistress. The priest officiating this marriage and his curate both appear to be wizened and hawkish. Some scholars have even described them as looking clownish. Beside this tableau, we see two dogs, and they are almost echoing the postures of this bride and groom. And so, arguably, this is highlighting the inappropriate, almost bestial nature of the marriage that we see taking place here. In the background, we see Sarah Young, and she is holding her child by Tom. She is there with her mother, and the two of them are involved in an altercation with another woman who is swinging keys. This other woman is likely the church's pew opener. Sarah and her mother might be trying and failing to interrupt or prevent this wedding from taking place. Beyond this problematic marriage, though, things in this church are shown to be in disorder. There is a crack running through the 10 Commandments on the wall. There are so few donations being made into the poor box that large cobwebs have formed above the slot, and the boy who should be benefiting from that parish charity is instead shown on his knees at the front of the image here. Tom has clearly learned nothing from his run-in with the debt collectors and his hasty marriage, because in the next image we see him gambling once more. He is losing a second fortune. This Tom is much transformed. In fact, he's almost unrecognisable. For one thing, he has clearly aged. Here we see him drop to his knees, perhaps in celebration, more likely in rage at his ill luck. His wig has fallen from his bald head and his face is contorted into a tight grimace. He looks almost crazed, I think. Perhaps his appearance here is a sign that he is already dealing with the mind-altering side effects of the mercury treatment that was used as an attempt to deal with syphilis. Or perhaps this is simply the mind-altering effects of syphilis itself. The dog we see observing him, front paws upon Tom's upturned chair, looks similarly frenzied. His collar is marked Covent Garden. Is this an indication that Tom must make do with gambling in Covent Garden because he is unwelcome in the more elite dens of vice, like White's in St James's? We see that others in the room here are also lamenting their luck. This man hides his face behind his tricorn hat, distressed that he has lost his coin at the dicing table. He is often described as a cleric, and so perhaps the hypocrisy of the state he now finds himself in is part of the reason that he is seeking to shield his face from view. This man sits off to the side, forlorn. We can, though, see the butt of a pistol emerging from his pocket, along with what appears to be a crumpled-up mask. This man is a highwayman. Beside him stands a shocked-looking boy who appears to be serving drinks. Is this highwayman telling stories from his life that might shock, at best, and at worst corrupt, the next generation? Behind them, a man is leaning against the wall. He is biting his nails, apparently as a sign of worry. Perhaps he too has lost his money here. These two men have been described as pickpockets or thieves, but they seem sufficiently comfortable in this gambling den to take the time to split their loot. Presumably, they believe that no one here will seek to remonstrate with them for their criminal acts. On the far left-hand side of the image, there is a man with flamboyant sleeves. He is in conversation with a moneylender. Presumably, he is making a deal to get more money for him to gamble away. We can see smoke billowing into the room, an echo perhaps of that map being set on fire in the orgy. Once again, Tom's world is on the verge of burning down, and once again, he will not heed the warning. A night watchman holding his lantern and staff has burst in, presumably in an attempt to discover the origin of the smoke, and thus to render aid. Beside the men who have actually noticed the smoke and are reacting in shock to the danger it poses, we see a man being restrained. He appears to be brandishing a rapier at a cowering man. Perhaps what we're seeing here is a fight breaking out. Maybe there has been an allegation of cheating. Is someone playing with loaded dice? On the wall, an advert for a card maker has been pinned. Justian, we see in this paper, also plies his trade before the royals. This is an indication, arguably, of just how far through the social order Hogarth believes the corruption has spread. Tom Rakewell's poor choices have eventually led him to this location, the debtor's prison of the Fleet. On a table beside him, we see a play that Tom has written that has now been returned to him, presumably by a publisher, who finds the play to be unsuitable, perhaps unsellable. Tom is being harangued by his wife, whose fortune he has wasted. The boy who brings his ale and the turnkey of the Fleet are both, we see, due money from Tom, but he has no funds to pay either one of them. Sarah Young is still with him. However, her distress at where his choices have led them has resulted in her collapsing here. Her mother is slapping her hand, trying to bring her round. A woman ministers to her using smelling salts or something similar. Sarah's clothes are unlaced to allow her to breathe better. For the first time, though, we see her looking dishevelled. Tom and Sarah's daughter appears concerned. She shakes her mother, trying to wake her up. There is a man behind her holding her up, and he is dressed in clothes that were once presumably fine, but that are now patched and ragged. From inside his pockets, or perhaps from inside his jacket, scrolls of paper have fallen down. We can see that these are schemes for clearing debts, but as this man is still in the Fleet, it would seem that these schemes have not been successful. Similarly, at the back of the room we see an alchemist at work, attempting to turn base metal into gold, just as Tom tried to turn mounting debts into profits through unbalanced marriages and gambling. Like the man with the schemes for clearing debts, these two are also unsuccessful, as they are both in debtor's prison. All three of these men have been following dreams that have seemingly distracted them, arguably blinding them to the true reality of the situations that each of them are facing. Resting on top of the bed frame is an enormous set of wings. They are a reference to the mythical story of Icarus, whose expansive aspirations led to his total ruin and death. Tom Rakewell's own desires have had a similar, albeit more earthbound consequence, and his situation is about to devolve further still. In the last image, named the madhouse, Tom is shown in Bedlam. He sits on the floor, shirtless, scratching his head. He is chained at the ankle. The black patch on his chest may be masking the lesion, which is a symptom of the syphilis that might have caused Tom's mental illness. He is being propped up by Sarah Young. Despite everything, she has remained at his side. But are the marks we see here on her cheek evidence of the poor reward that she has received? Is she also infected with syphilis? Tom's fellow patients, or inmates, include a depressed man, apparently forlorn at his unrequited love for a sex worker. He has attempted to take his own life. He appears to have carved her name, Charming Betty Careless, onto the banister beside him. Betty Careless was a real, famous sex worker of the day. This man is almost certainly wearing her picture around his neck. A dog, often used to symbolise lustful feelings, has focused its attention on this man. Behind him, an individual dressed in a manner reminiscent of the Pope appears to be singing or raving. Is this Hogarth's comment on the threat, maybe even the lunacy, of papal thought or Roman Catholic loyalty being allowed to potentially continue unchecked within Britain? A wide-eyed man is shown playing a violin. but we might assume that the musical output here is going to be somewhat cacophonous, as he is using his sheet music as a hat. Kneeling on the floor is a tailor, or at least someone who thinks they are a tailor. He appears to be measuring an invisible client. Another man has a sheet of rolled up paper that he is using as a form of telescope. But rather than the stars, this would-be astronomer only has the ceiling to observe. Behind him, a budding cartographer is trying to calculate longitude. This would enable him to chart voyages that, because of the position he finds himself in here, he is unlikely to ever be at liberty to take. The cartographer is working around an emblem of Britannia. It almost looks like an enlarged coin. Is Hogarth warning his viewers of the potential risks to the nation, to the empire as a whole, that might be posed by the vices which have so damaged the minds we see here, that may arguably also threaten to corrupt the community as a whole? Is Hogarth, as Sean Shesgreen claims, questioning the sanity of his nation as a whole, at around the time he began working on this series, so in 1763? In the cells on either side of our map maker, we find a religious fanatic, reclining on a bed of straw, seemingly deep in ecstatic prayer on one side, while on the other side we find a naked man who is wearing a crown and holding a sceptre. His other hand is on, or at least by, his genitalia, and it seems that he is urinating or perhaps ejaculating. All of this is being witnessed by these two finely dressed ladies. They are Bedlam tourists who spend their time and money visiting this asylum so they may observe, discuss, and arguably judge the people they see confined there. It would be easy to question, I think, these ladies' own judgment, even their sanity, if this is truly what they deem to be a suitable use of their time and their money. So what do you think of A Rake's Progress? When we consider it alongside A Harlot's Progress, how do you think both of these series work as modern moral subjects, which is of course how Hogarth apparently described them? How effective might these series have been to change behaviours, do you think? And do you think that was even the main intention? As always, I'm looking forward to reading your conversations in the comments section underneath this video. But I'd also love it if you could pop an emoji or a social glyph in the comments, because that will boost the engagement, which should get the video shared out more, which hopefully will help us to grow our community. By way of an emoji, I'm wondering if there is a literal rake emoji. I'm not sure. If there is, perhaps we can fill the comments with garden equipment, which is odd, but I find quite amusing. You can also find me elsewhere on social media. I will leave links to all the places you can find me on the internet in my description box. Please do follow me over on some or all of those so we can continue this conversation and start some others. I do hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, please share it with your friends. If you like the channel, let your pals know about it. You can tell me about this video in particular by hitting the thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel, and if you think you are subscribed, do have a little check now, just to make sure that YouTube has not mysteriously unsubscribed you against your will. While you're there, checking, subscribing, maybe resubscribing, please do hit the bell icon beside the subscribe button and then select all in the drop down that will appear, and that way YouTube claim they will tell you when I've next uploaded, but also when I'm next going live, which I do at the moment once a month to talk about the history news. We look at all of the history news articles I've been sent and have a chat to see what's been going on in the world of history. You are not going to want to miss that. There is, of course, our failsafe. Head to my website. It will be linked. It is www.katrinamarchant.com. Please then go to the contact page where you will find a box. Put your email address in that box and hit sign up. That will add you to my list and allow me to send you out an email once a week to let you know what I've been up to, but also to send you any useful links for my content for the coming days. I hope you're going to have a great day whatever you're doing, and I look forward to speaking to you all in my next video. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye for now.